Welcome, genties and ladlemen. It is, in fact, your boy, Sir Egward, and this is episode 18 of Cracking the Shell. Hooray, we are legal to drink now and buy GTA and look at porn. We could we could literally shoot people in the army and fuck at 16. Why is that a celebration? Because
You
this
know,
country is backwards. But today I have got Gray from Edinburgh, Power Violence Legends, Endless Swarm. How's it going, sir?
aye, not too bad, mate. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for coming on and chatting to me for a little bit about Christ knows what, but
Of course.
thank you again. As you might know if you've seen this before, I usually, before we talk about what's going on now, I like to rewind the clock a little bit and find out how did we get here, the kind of the origin story, your upbringing, finding music, your first bands, that kind of the X-Men Origins
Yeah, yeah.
version of Gray's story.
Right, okay. Well, I started. I was pretty late to get into music. I don't really have a musical family as such. I remember back when I was spending a lot of time at Livingston Skate Park, I got a CD called Hard Rock or something like that, and it had like loads of like new metal and stuff on it. So it was like my first introduction to like heavy music. But to be honest, it wasn't until I was like 14, 15 until I started getting into heavier stuff. But I kind of went in it a bit differently. I didn't go like the traditional route. I had like friends that were really into music before me, so I hadn't really got into metal or punk properly, and then I was getting like handed CDs for like I think like Gallows is one of the first like hardcore bands that I started listening to, and yeah, I kind of just went from there, and then I've kind of gone backwards and started checking out like early punk, early hardcore, early metal and stuff. But um, I through the years, I kind of so when I was like 16, 17, I really got into hardcore, and I got really into it, and I kind of pigeonholed myself for like a long time and would only listen to hardcore stuff, and I eventually led on to like yeah, blast beats, power violence, grindcore and stuff like that. And yeah, I've not really deviated too much. Like I listen to all music now, but it's always primarily been like hardcore and punk and stuff like that. So yeah, it's I not really had like my mum and sister both played flute, and that was about as much musical and like inspiration I had in the family, but nothing. Nobody's played in bands or anything like that. So yeah,
Yeah, I mean, I mirror that story. I never really had anybody musical in my family. I kind of just had to discover everything myself. Again, going down that kind of new metal route, which is very common, I've found among the 18 episodes of this that I've done. New metal
yeah,
seems
yeah,
to be very much a kind of like start point for pretty much everyone because we're all a kind of similar age bracket, our kind
yeah,
of
for sure,
mid to late 20s and our early 30s, some even like mid 30s. So I definitely relate to that. I will admit I was quite late getting into hardcore. I started off with, all the classic stuff like your Maidens, your Metallicas, and
yeah. Right,
power
okay.
metal. And then I
Uh,
found I got really into metalcore. And then, Killswitch Engage, Hatebreed, all of them loved the New York hardcore stuff. So I
yep,
found
yep,
that, your Cro-Mags, your Agnostic Front, Madball, and
yep.
I kind of worked my way backwards from there. But
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, that's how I found it. I try not to pigeonhole myself. For a while there, I was like pretty much just like power and symphonic metal and stuff, but generally now I like all kind of alternative, angry guitar music, whether it be
Yeah, yeah.
hardcore, Nightwish, or pretty much
Hmm.
anything really.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
Endless Swarm have been around for at least a little bit. Anyway, again, I couldn't find any concrete information, but I had a look in the Bandcamp, which I'll have linked below as well. And
Uh-huh.
you've definitely got no shortage of material.
Well, we've been going 11 years. We started in 2013, and I played in a hardcore band before, and a guy called Ben used to come to our shows, and he used to do like art and stuff. So eventually he started like doing t-shirts from old band, and then I got a message from him one day being like, "Do you want to start a fast hardcore band? Do you want us to do power violence?" And I was kind of like, I was interested, but I wasn't totally sold on wanting to do it because I was kind of focused on my other band. But we met up and we did like an Infest cover, and then we didn't do anything for a couple of months, and then we got Alex in the band, and then Alan, who's not in the band anymore, he started drumming as well. And we played our first show, and we played it at Bannerman's, and Mike from Cancerous Womb was there, and he said, "We're away on tour um, next month. Do you guys want to come along with us?" And it was with Horse Bastard as well, and I'd never been on tour before. So I was like, "Yeah, sounds good." So our third show was the first day of that tour, and like since then, the ball's not really ever stopped rolling. I kind of just quickly saw like, oh, this is like, because my old band, we were just kind of bouncing between Edinburgh and Glasgow a lot of the time. So when we started doing this, I was like, oh, this is an actual being in a band is like, and we get to travel about and we get to do this stuff, and yeah, it kind of gave me a thirst to really like pursue Endless Swarm. So yeah, and that's kind of, as you say, led to quite a lot of written music, written recorded music and stuff over the years. So it's been pretty intense at times. Like we've really thrown ourselves in the deep end at other times in that, but it's, I mean, I wouldn't change it, to be honest. I like it. I'm quite an intense guy when I would really get my teeth stuck into something. So,
Mhm.
yeah, I'm kind of glad it doesn't.
That's definitely that's the way to do it. Anybody that's pursuing anything in whether it's art, whether it's music or whatever it is, you either put
Uh,
everything in it or you don't do it. I had Hamish Maguire on a couple episodes ago, and that was a lot of the stuff we
right.
talked about of if you truly want something, you will do it. You will find
Mm,
a way to do it. And you've done
yeah,
that
definitely.
with Endless Swarm. I mean, your third show was the start of a tour, and it's just seemed to have never stopped. And now I mean,
Mm.
you've been going to America, you're going to Japan next month, which did you ever think of anything like that happening or even playing a show outside of like the UK? Was that anywhere near?
Uh, nah, never. I mean, when some old band, I remember trying to book a UK tour and then talking about maybe getting to Europe, and it just seemed like the hardest thing to, because
Mhm.
I hadn't even booked my own gigs by that point. I didn't really know how it all worked, and I didn't know what to ask for. I didn't really know the process, but just kind of over the years, you just pick it up. Um, and then, yeah, even booking the first Endless Swarm European tour, I was like, it didn't feel like it was going to happen until we were in Europe, and I was like, oh, holy shit, this is actually happening. Then I kind of learned over the years that I was like, it is the same process of booking a show in Tokyo as it is trying to get a show booked in the band. You know, email, you send what your requirements are and that. So once I kind of got my head around the booking process and stuff, and years I kind of learned how to logistically manage the band, you know, like organize flights and get drivers and whatever, like, you know, get merch printed other places and stuff. It's become second nature now. So it's really opened the door for us to kind of just pick and choose where we want to go. I mean, obviously people need to want to book us as well, but and we've been quite fortunate that most people are black. So it's been, yeah, the door's really been opened, and we've got some wild places, and I'm still, even to this day, like, because we like, it felt like booking your own DIY tour was like something that you could do yourself, but when we got to the stage where like people were like emailing and being like, we'll pay to fly you out to play this festival, I was like, what the fuck is going on? Like, it's still, even to me, we were just out in Switzerland last month, and it was like, you know, the promoters paid for us to fly out, they picked us up, they, you know, we had somewhere to stay and all that, and I'm still not taking that stuff for granted. It's pretty wild that it gets to happen. I don't think it'll ever, I hope it doesn't ever become normal. I really like yeah, it's just wild. Yeah, it's great.
It's a very humble attitude to hear that. Normally, like you see a lot of, I suppose, giant acts and they're getting flown everywhere and everything's paid for them and it's like you just need to snap your fingers and anything's there for you. Do you ever see that? Because obviously you've done a lot of this on your own, not really a lot of financial or like any kind of logistical help from either a label or a company or anything like that. Do you
Yeah.
see yourselves actively pursuing anything like that, or do you think you're just going to keep it DIY for as long as possible?
I think we'll always be DIY. I think like 80-90% of that is just like just me being a control freak with it all. Like we've got a good setup where like Alex, our bassist, he'll primarily write, well, I get about 95% of the music, and it's usually taken care of on that side. I do most of the lyrics. Well, on the last album I did like, I think I did like 16, 17 songs anyway. So I do most of the lyrics. But yeah, we're in a position where he does all that. So like I handle like the logistics side, and like we're kind of now at a point where he's like, this is the music, and I'm like, this is where we're going. And then we all kind of just, it's like a really good way of doing it. Like it's we've got a good setup with that, so I don't really want to rock the boat too much. Like we kind of like we agree up front in the year where we're going to try and tour and where we want to go and what offers we're wanting to take, and then yeah, we just kind of go with it. So I'm not really interested in having a booking agent or anything like that. And in the same sense, it's I love the DIY, and it's like I love being in charge of it all, and I love managing the tours, and I love like meeting like I like that I've spoken to promoters and stuff before we meet them, and then when we go on tour, we're meeting with people that we've already like spoken about online, and we know you know what we're expecting to get paid or where we're sleeping. It's like just a nice arrangement to have. Like I like the DIY approach. I don't want to have a middleman of booking agents or somebody wanting to take a fee of what we do when I can do it myself. And yeah, it's just I don't know because like even internally within the band, like Dave, our drummer, he owns the recording studio and he records our music. I do most of the artwork other than the album art. Like I've done most of our split artwork. I do flyers. I do our tour flyers. Um, I used to run a label that pressed our 7 inches and stuff, and I've always been hands on with that. And then I book the tours. So we're like I like that we're kind of like we've taken DIY and you know try to run as far as we can with that, and like even like merch and stuff like that. Like I design most of the merch, other than a guy called Wesley's been doing quite a few t-shirts for us recently, and then we've got a good mate who prints it for us. But it's all it's just it feels like a very well-oiled machine at the moment. So I'm not not too interested in having anybody taking it off our hands because it seems to work for us, you know. So and I like that approach.
It definitely sounds that you've got a good head on your shoulders and everybody is contributing in something. It's not just one guy doing literally everything, which I'm sure has been in the case in the past. Um, it's like when you're in school and you have a group project and there's the one guy doing all of the work, and meanwhile the other three are just kind of sat in their arses or on their phone or whatever. It's like
Yeah,
there's
yeah.
always that one guy just doing everything and he's about ready to kill people. I know I've definitely been that guy before, but
I actually had that moment this morning because I'm sorting out the Japan flights for us all, and like I've taken that role on, but like honestly, sometimes it's so hard to get everybody like communicating at once and all that. And I'm like, I was on the website trying to book these flights, and I had like a timer before like the tickets. Like I timed out and had to restart the process, and I put in like everyone's passport details and like picked all our fucking meals for the planes and all that. And I was not getting a reply from anyone. And I was like, this is so fucking infuriating. Like, somebody answer, like I'm trying to do all this just now, like I'm using my card to pay for it all. Like just get in touch with me. But we did get it sorted. But it's something it can feel like that. But I mean that's the I guess that's the risk you take when you become a bit of a control freak and try to be band dad and take over all roles at once.
definitely every band needs that kind of band dad, band mum, band parent, whatever. And
Yeah.
it's kind of funny that it's of course the singer that's doing it, whereas normally it's supposed the kind of trope is, oh, the singer only carries the microphone and even then they bitch about it, you know?
Well, do you know what? I made that joke the other day. I'd booked a show. I put Bandit on from the USA, and Iniquitous Savagery were playing, and Chris Ryan, who I know you've interviewed before, he was he was loading stuff out, and I was like, oh, you need to show me how to do this. I've never loaded in before, but like the reality is like our he might if he ever watches this, he might be annoyed at me. But like me and Alex have noticed that he very conveniently kind of slips off at times when we are trying to load in and load out on tour. And I think I do more than the traditional vocalist role with that as well. But and Dave seems to just disappear into the ether whenever we're moving big cabs or stuff like that. But he's at least he's a phenomenal drummer to make up for it.
Exactly. I mean, to be fair, it's drummers. They're either, I mean, they're having to carry their own stuff, which I get, but at the same time, it's like, come on, there's more than just you. It's not like Stuart Copeland or some shit where you're doing fucking everything, but he's definitely phenomenal, as is everybody in the band, which it's something that you
Thank
never
you.
really can hear because Power Violence is just stupid intense and it's like 3,000 BPM. But there is a lot of
Mm.
musicianship in there, especially with Endless Swarm, and I'm sure the many other bands that I don't know because Power Violence isn't a genre that I've really explored all that much. I've explored like
Right. Okay.
grindcore and all that kind of thing, but
Yeah. Yeah.
definitely Endless Swarm's the kind of first power violence. I mean, I suppose you can kind of count Full of Hell in that, but they're kind of
Mhm.
leaning more towards that like noise aspect of it. Same with like Nails, they're like like super grindy noise.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's definitely something I need to delve into further as a
Yeah.
guy
For
that's coming
sure.
from like a lot of old school death metal, brutal death metal, slam, etc.
Yeah. Yeah.
What are some, if you could name three bands off the top of your head that if you know somebody that is like, I have no idea what power violence is, what are the bands that
Mhm.
you're like, this is power violence?
Spaz, for sure. That's probably who we get compared most to. Just I think primarily the back and forth vocals that we do. It reminds people of Spaz. Lack of interest, who are like my favorite band of all time. I yeah, the vocal like style is something I'm really influenced by, so I would definitely check them out. And um, if I was to go for a more modern one, I would say Afternoon Gentlemen, just because they're probably the UK's best ever power violence. I mean, they're not full like true power violence if there is such a thing, but a lot of grindcore influence. But they're the best modern day band doing that kind of stuff anyway for sure. So probably those three. Yeah,
I'll definitely check them out, but I really appreciate that. Let's
yeah,
see
but,
here. So obviously you guys are like you're again going to Japan next month. I'll have everything linked in the description so people can see tour dates and stuff. Is there
mhm.
anywhere that you think I'd love to go there that you've not been to yet?
Um, the two places I really want to do a Latin America tour. Um, um, Logistically, I think it seems harder to book than other tours that we've done, which is why I think we've avoided it because I think there's a lot of like internal flights between places and stuff just because it's so big. And I think the same with well, we just did an American tour in July there with a band from New Zealand, and I really want to get out to Australia and New Zealand at some point. But again, like I'm not worried, I guess, but like I'm aware that there's probably only like five or six big cities that you can play in that they're like fucking miles away from each other. So like logistically, it seems like a big tour to kind of get booked and stuff. So those are the two tours that I want to do, and I think we will do at some point. That I'd like, yeah, I really want to visit those places, and I think more of Southeast Asia as well. Like we toured the UK a few years ago, with a band from Malaysia, and we've been asked to go out that way a few times as well to do like Malaysia and like Singapore and Indonesia and yeah, maybe get into China and stuff like that. So it'd be good to do all that, but again, it's another one with a lot of flying. So I'm like, because I really do like when we can just fly in somewhere and then it's like we get into the van and then that's us sorted. You know, you're not having to because it's just I think the thing that I hate the most is like getting guitars onto planes and then like also having to organize with promoters. Like we obviously can't tour like a full backline, so turning up places and you having to borrow heads and cabs and everything just feels really unprepared. And it would be nice to be able to play with our own gear and stuff like that. So yeah, we've not really got around to any. I don't think we've done any tours where we've had to do like multiple flights on. So but yeah, one day I guess. Yeah, I would like to visit these places.
But we know what we need to do then. We need to make a Kickstarter for the Endless Swarm private jet where they can just have everything sat on a roof somewhere, all the backline, all the merch, all everything, so they can just up and go. You want to go to
Yeah.
Latin America? Yep, on we go. Singapore? Fucking sure. We
Sorted. Yep.
that would be incredible. I mean, fucking if Iron Maiden can have their own jet, I mean,
I
you
know.
just do the Bruce Dickinson, you can be the pilot and fly everywhere and actually I
You
don't know.
know,
I don't
I'm
know how that
such
would
a
work.
control freak. I would, I would quite like to do that.
I could see you flying a plane like the big what would the name of it be? If you had to name the Endless Swarm private plane, what would we call it?
I'm trying to think of a good pun of any.
I'm a sucker for a good pun.
for anything power violence, and I can't even think of EasyJet or Ryanair. That would be a good pun, but Gillespie Airlines would be fine, I'm sure.
Last Beat Airlines, I'm into it. Let's get the Kickstarter sorted. Get it down there, we'll raise. I don't know how much a Boeing 747 costs. I'm sure
Put it
it's
that
somewhere
way.
in the millions. It's something stupid, I'm sure. But that's what we need right now. We need first Scottish power violence band to have their own private jet. I'd be well into that. There's
Yeah.
the VIP experience. You can come on the jet and shit,
No, I'd be into it as well. Save Ryanair trying to charge us for bringing symbols on the plane and stuff like that last minute and whatever all the other money they try to rip off us. So
See, that's why the flights are like 20 quid. It's because everything else is piled on with fees that you don't know until you're fucking checking your shit in. And next
yeah,
thing you know, it's
yeah.
went from 20 quid to like 550 or some stupid shit like that.
Well, that's happening just now because we've booked our Japanese flights, but they're from Gatwick. So we're trying to get down to Gatwick, and it's like 24.99 on the website just now, each way. And by the time my dad did on like all the luggage that we need to take for the band and all that, it's £231 or something it's sitting at now for the return flights just for two of us. So I'm like, I was pulled in by these bargain prices and that now, and I'm just like, this isn't actually that cheap. Like, it's costing me more to get my bag on the plane than it is to get me on the plane. It's just a stupid system, but I also probably shouldn't complain when I'm in the fortunate position of getting to fly to Japan to play gigs anyway. So I'll try not to moan about it too much.
Well, you know what? We all need a good one, but that is hilarious to think about, is that it costs more to get your stuff in the plane than it is to get you in the plane, which the
Yeah,
obvious solution is we just have the Endless Swarm guys, we just have them stay there, we fly the stuff over, and we just have AI do it. Simple. We'll
yeah.
do the Ronnie James Dio hologram. That's what we need. We had the Ronnie James Dio hologram, and then we'll have like a power violence hologram.
Sorted. I'm into this. You should take over the band management role. We'll have holograms and planes by the end of the year.
We're gonna make it big, boys. We're gonna have holograms and planes, and we're gonna be the best power pilots van in the world. That would be fucking terrifying if I was managing anything. The idea of managing something gives me a panic attack, to be honest. It's like I don't know how I even do this. Like, how have I barely managed to get one episode. How the fuck have I made like this will be the 18th one?
That's good going.
How am I here? I have no idea what I'm doing still. But I think it's that just I have no idea what I'm doing. I'm gonna learn. That makes a lot of people successful. It's made you successful. It's made like Party Cannon as a prime example successful.
Yeah,
Like
for sure.
they're like
Everyone's learning on their feet. Like I don't think any of us go into being in a DIY band that's like has any idea of what's going on. Like they might have a vague kind of clue of what's happening, but yeah, I certainly from what I like, I remember going on like I didn't even know how to in the sound tech speaking to you on stage and they're talking about even monitors and and I'd be like, I don't fucking know. I used to have to get like our old guitarist or whatever to speak into the mic for me to to talk about our sound. But now, I'll be out front listening to it and trying to help make us sound good. You learn everything. I didn't have to get on a bill with my band and I never booked a show. Now I'm, booking shows for touring bands myself and, pressing records, whatever but you just learn it all on the way. And that's the great thing about DIY as well. So it's incredible because you see people like I've met people before that have to go to like university and stuff to do like events management and that, and I'm like, feel like everybody I know in DIY is like qualified to probably do that course because we're all, putting on our own shows and organizing like literally bands that are flying over from international bands and booking them accommodation and cooking food for them and it's yeah, that's cool. That's a good way. I think yeah, that's what's maybe good about DIY. You get to learn a lot of skills along the way.
See, this is why, like, don't get me wrong, I'm sure uni is, I mean, it's admirable, it's commendable, and I have a lot of respect for anybody that goes through the higher education system. But if you're
Yeah,
doing
yeah,
any kind of management, don't spend, 20, 30 grand on like a uni course. Just form a DIY band. You will learn that shit in a fraction of the time and you'll get a fraction of the money, but it means you're not going to be in debt. Not being
yeah.
in debt's good, right? Well, kind of. It depends on what you end up doing in said DIY band, but
Yeah.
We are not liable for any monetary losses, by the way. Legal
No, no,
disclaimer.
disclaimer.
So we've got the Japan tour coming up in October.
hmm
What's next
Um,
that you can talk
I
about,
think
obviously?
after that, well, we have a split um potentially happening with a very big band. I can't mention that because it's not been locked in yet. They approached us, but it's I think it's complicated. I think basically their guitarist approached us, but I don't think he's able to, you know, to approve this decision basically. So we've been approached by a band to do a split with him, and it'd be the biggest split we've ever done. It'd be a pretty big record if we'd got to do that, and we might be hopefully flying him out next year. But it's actually I sent another email out to him today to see if we can get stuff locked in. But other than that, we're also hoping to in that same recording session do our third album. So we're going to get to work on that, and then we're going to have a quieter spell, I think, from touring the first half of next year because we're about to have our second dad within the band. So there's another endless swarm baby coming soon, and so I think it'll be October next year before we do another full length like big tour. So, but we've not quite decided where that's going to be yet. Spoken about we have actually spoken about the ones I mentioned before, like maybe doing Latin America or doing Australia, New Zealand, but we've not quite decided yet. So, but that's about as far as plans as we've got really. Um, so we'll see what happens.
So in terms of so obviously you've got this potential split maybe coming, who knows, and then
Mhm.
obviously the third full length record, which I mean, talking the words full length when it comes to power violence, it feels kind of like an oxymoron because a
Yeah,
lot of power violence albums are like 20 minutes at maximum.
yeah,
So
yeah. Well, that's the
ha-
line we aim for. We do 19, 20 minutes. Is like if we can hit that, then that's what we'll call an album. Because I think, I mean, I mean, I don't really know what an I mean, I guess 30, 35 minutes maybe for an album like standard, but
Hmm.
we're looking at doing about 40 songs for that, and it's just I think that's too much. It kind of takes away because like the idea that power dance bands and grindcore bands, it's meant to be, you know, like short songs. But if it's like, well, I always think back to like because Napalm Death did Scum, and there's like their extended version of it, like their anniversary, and it goes over an hour long, and I'm like, feels to me like it kind of defeats the purpose of doing short songs. Like I like the punchiness of having like a 20-minute album because I mean, you either just put it right back to the beginning and start it again if it's good enough, or it's just enough. It's enough to get your fill, and it's so intense and it's so fast that you move on to the next thing after you're like, whoa, that was a lot. I don't think we need to do any longer, and I think it is too long to get in a 7-inch anyway, so it has to be an album by that point. So yeah, I don't think I'd want to do any longer than that. So I think 20 minutes is a good benchmark for us to aim for. So
well, there you go, another 20 minutes of music coming at some point in sometime, maybe,
yeah,
who knows. But
yeah. I mean, I think we'd aim to record probably. We would want to give ourselves 6 months to have the album ready for October. So yeah, probably aiming to record maybe hopefully like I don't know March or something like that next year.
mhm.
Looking to record an album. So that's a world exclusive for you there as well. Nobody knows this. So
Hey,
third,
we love the world exclusives. I live for it. It's really cool.
so third LP coming next year.
Third LP coming next year, touring somewhere. Who knows? It might be in your back garden. It might be in Antarctica. There's not a lot of kind of middle ground there. It's either going to be in someone's back garden or it's going to be Antarctica.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, those are the only two options we're going to leave.
Yep, exactly. So Antarctic tour coming very soon, supporting Metallica because they're going back there again.
Ah, is that actually a thing?
Well, they actually, and I read this a few years ago. Apparently, Metallica were the first band to play in Antarctica, like
Okay.
10-ish years ago, which is
Yeah,
something that you just never hear. It's like there's anything in Antarctica
yeah,
outside of
yeah.
penguins and seals.
Yeah, I'm surprised. Very surprised. I mean, I'd love to. Yeah, I mean, the most obscure place we've got to so far, I think it'd be South Korea, is as obscure as we've got. But I think I would like to top that if I can. it'd be good to hang. Antarctica would be hard to beat, to be honest. So yeah, let's not say we'll never say never for that.
We'll never say never, but don't expect like show dates coming tomorrow. Not that this episode's going to be uploaded tomorrow from the time I'm recording this, because I need to get better at spacing them out. Because a lot of the times it's like, here's 3 episodes in a week, and then there's nothing for 3 weeks. Kind of like Tool releasing albums. Hmm. Here's an album, here's nothing for like a decade, and here's something that's incredibly mid.
You know, I've maybe gone 33 years without ever listening to a Tool song. You know, I don't think I've ever heard a Tool song in my life.
I don't think you want to. It's the complete antithesis of any kind of angry, like short, violent music. It's kind I imagine it like a sleepy snake, just kind of that.
Right. Okay.
I mean, it's like I like prog. I like, your long-winded epics, like 9, 10 minutes, which if
Yeah.
you see a power violence band doing a 10-minute song, run away.
That's just that would just be a filler track for them to hit label requirements of album lengths or or because they've not been managed to write enough songs or something. That's how I see it. Especially it seems to be like a bit of a token song in a lot of power balance albums or grindcore stuff is that it'll be like loads of 1 minute songs and it'll be like this 4 minute song jammed
Oh,
in.
that's an epic for them. That's a magnum opus. That's like a change
But
of
it's got like
seasons by
noise.
Dream Theater for them. 4 whole minutes of noise. Wow.
Yeah, it's got noise or a long sample in it, and it's just to pad out an album to kind of make it 20 minutes.
Honest to God, that's something that, like, don't get me wrong, I like samples, especially if they're just full of memes or anything stupid. Like, excellent case in point, the new Peeling Flesh album,
Yeah,
which full of stupid hip hop samples and Christ knows what else. But
yeah,
what annoys me is when a sample is literally like a half to two-thirds of your song, like the latest Torso
yeah. I
Fuck
know.
album.
It needs to be short. It needs to be, yeah, like 10, 15 seconds max, and then that's it. I don't like them too long. But the good thing with Peel and Flesh is they do blend them in sometimes because they have like those like hip hoppy kind of bits, and like sometimes in between, like behind breakdowns and stuff, and it's quite cool. Like that new single that they put out, um, like the second half of it, there's like a slam with like like a sample behind it, and I quite like that. I do like when they merge the two.
I feel like that's something that, like, I don't think I could ever imagine like a hip hop sample being used in like a power violence record, because I don't think the tempos quite match up. Just
Yeah,
this,
well, I think Magruder Grind might have done it, but um, I will say that I'm not trying to plug Magruder Grind because their singer's some he works for like the IDF or something, the Friends of the IDF, so fuck those Zionists. But they did use it, so I have heard a couple. I'm trying and Spaz also used hip hop samples at times, so if you do get around to checking them out, they do it as well, and like kung fu samples and stuff. It's pretty cool, and they did it really well. They were great at picking their samples. It was definitely a band that inspired us to pick some good ones as well.
what's something that you would love to use as a sample one day?
Um, oh Christ. Well, I've been pretty because a lot of the music that I write, like, so I read a lot before write an album or write the lyrics for an album, and it's like quite heavy sci-fi stuff that we write about. So like the last album we got to use like there's this place. So I grew up in Livingston, and I sometimes work there still, and uh, there's a woodland in it called Deckman, and that's where there was like this really famous like UFO landing. And I wrote one of the songs in the woods about aliens and about UFOs and that, and I got to sample the the guy that was apparently abducted by aliens. I got to sample his wife speaking in the song and stuff. So like we've done some like yeah, we've done some really cool ones. Like I like a lot of our samples, and we've done a few like Scottish ones, like Lemmy or like Chewing the Fat and stuff like that. So and you know what? Actually, I'm going to use this platform to fucking call out Party Cannon. So I hope Chris watches this. we used the fucking and we're obviously friends with them, so this is a joke, but like we used that disgusting sample, you know the one, the fucking it's
Oh
fucking,
yeah, yeah.
and they've used it as well, and we did it in 2014. So again, if Chris from Party Cannon is watching this, if he does, then fuck you. Endless
Jesus
Swarm did it
Christ.
first.
Endless Swarm did it first. You heard it first, Genties and Ladleman. We're gonna start beef Endless Swarm
Yeah.
versus Party Cannon. We're gonna get them in the octagon like Logan
Yes.
Paul and fucking Mike Tyson.
100%. But
Honestly,
no,
I
I can't think of any samples that I want to do that we've not already done. But once we're in the zone of writing again, I'm sure they'll start cropping up, and we'll find some good ones
Hmm.
to use.
You find that it's obviously because Power Violence is quite short and you really don't need a lot, like at most a minute's worth of material per song. Do you find that that makes it easier to write or makes it harder to write?
Well, I don't know, because when Alex sends like the MIDI files over and we look at them, it just feels like it is a normal length of song that is written. Like there's a normal amount of music that a standard song would have in it, but just like condensed, you
Hmm.
know. So like, because that's another thing that I always find funny, because like, see when we're sending our stuff away to like producers, and like they're mixing and mastering and stuff and all that, and they charge per song. I'm always like, do we have to pay more now? Because we're doing like 20, 21 songs for an album, whereas like, a standard album with like 3 4 minute songs might be like 10 11 12 tracks. um but it's and they'll be like, no, we'll charge like a set fee or whatever. But yeah, it's interesting because I do actually, on the flip side, I do kind of like, if you looked at one of our songs, there's probably, as I say, like a normal song's amount of material in there, just played really really fast. So yeah, I don't think it's any easier or any harder to write. And I think Alex makes it harder for himself as well, because like he could easily like rehash riffs and revisit stuff, but most of the songs he will just do a riff and then just a random tempo change in the middle of like a bar, and then it just does that like 6 7 times for a song, and then never ever revisits any of the previous ones. Not like traditional like heavier bands where it's like, oh yeah, bring back the riff but slower, and that's the heavy part. Like that kind of stuff. We don't. Well, we do it, but we don't tend to do it too frequently. So I think it's, yeah, sometimes quite complex. But we're not a band that we don't write together. We don't write in the same room. Like Alex is fucking mental, and he writes everything on his phone using this app called Tux Guitar. So he writes everything in this MIDI format, and like I think Dave for drummers witnessed him writing before, and he says he's got his phone. He's just like typing everything out like mad fast and that, and like then he'll just send a screen recording of the app playing the song, and it's like I'll bring one up because they're really fucking funny to listen to, because it's all in MIDI, so it sounds like
It's like a SNES game on crack or some shit,
yeah,
isn't
yeah, it
it?
is exactly that. And then sometimes he writes so fast that like even the program, like when it can't really even
It
play
just
it
panics
properly.
and crashes.
Yeah, it doesn't even sound right. So I'll play a wee snippet of like the most recent one that is written, and you'll be able to hear what it sounds like.
I can't really hear anything.
Is
It's
it
not,
coming through? No.
no, it's not coming through, but I get the
Ah,
idea.
right.
It sounds like a SNES
Oh
game
well,
having
worth
a
a
panic
try.
attack.
Yes, yeah, yeah. Okay, well, it was worth a bash. But yeah, it. Long story short, it's very mad. So yeah, who knows? It's maybe I'm doing him a disservice and not saying it's super hard to write. Like, but I don't think it's easier because it's shorter. Would be my answer
Mm,
to that. Yeah.
yeah, definitely. It's definitely a weird thing because again, I kind of listen to everything. I like songs that are 30 seconds. I like songs that are 30 minutes. It
Yeah,
just
yeah,
very much depends on my mood. But it's something that I, as a fan, have always wondered if having, I suppose, that kind of time constraint kind of makes it easier or harder because there's a whole thing of if the box is too open, then nothing gets done. It's like that kind of argument. You
yeah,
get
yeah,
that kind of debate. if you've got too much choice, then you're too busy choosing and nothing actually gets done. Whereas if you have basically no choice whatsoever, then you're able to just like shit stuff out rapid
Yeah.
fire. Like I remember I was listening to the Gaza podcast, the Peeling Flesh episode of how they
Right.
wrote like shit in like maybe an hour, which
Oh, really? That's surprising.
yeah, I remember it was. I'll send the link in the Instagram DMs to that episode. It had all five of them on it, and they were chatting about like the beginning of the band and the writing process. And it's like we just got mad high and wrote Slamaholics in like 45 minutes, and it's like,
Oh, wow. Writing some of like the most solid like slam stuff that's been like to me anyway. It's like in years. I think it's incredible the stuff that they're putting out as well.
I love it. I really hope that they come across here, and I think that that would be a fucking amazing show. Peeling Flesh X Endless Swarm. I think that would be incredible. You just see all the epileptic ninjas being so confused because, like, wait a minute, it's super slow. It's like 3 BPM, and now it's like fucking 300. What do I do?
Well, you see that sometimes because we do throw in the odd like kind of breakdown a bit, and if we've had any crossover shows where there's like kind of folk like hardcore dancing and stuff like that, they'll be like, oh yes, here's a like a slam that we can start hardcore dancing to and that, and then it ends in like 6 seconds, and we're like, oh shit. So it's quite funny.
Yeah, it's fun to watch. I don't get involved in it as much as I used to anymore just because I'm old now.
We had an interesting
Everything
experience
hurts.
because like we usually like since we started the band, it always felt like the scene was like aging with us. You know, like our fans weren't getting they didn't change. They were all just getting older with us. It kind of felt like a lot of our fans were like our peers and stuff, and they were all the same age.
Mhm.
And then I remember last year when we were in Europe, it was the first time I noticed like a full new crowd coming through. Like we were playing to like we were playing in Czech Republic, no Slovenia, sorry, and it was like a whole room full of people. I didn't know anyone because normally we get to meet a lot of friendly faces, a lot of people that we met in other tours and stuff, and I didn't know anyone. And I was like, this is strange. Like, are we like the older guys now? And then we went over to America last month. It was like everybody was like 18, 19, 20, and like the whole style of like moshing has totally changed and stuff. Like, because we were normally like push pits and stage diving and stuff like that, but it was like if folk were like fucking really kicking shit out of each other to out of shows and stuff. And I was like, well, this has changed a lot. Like it wasn't. It was mad different. And I was like, kind of. If now I feel like, yeah, like we're maybe like I guess these things are all cyclic. Yeah, but I guess we're now the older guys. Like we're not the young crowd anymore. So, but it's good. It's nice to see, and it's nice to see folk coming out to still watch us to play after 11 years and stuff. It's cool, and I hope that they, they continue to do so as we get older as well.
They're definitely doing it here. I'm noticing that, I suppose, the kind of mean age shows, at least that I go to, it's a lot more varied now. There's a lot of really young people. There's a lot of really old people. Like I keep seeing this old guy who is at least in his 60s or maybe even 70s, maybe even older. I can't tell. And
Yeah,
he's having the time of his fucking life. He's getting crowd surfed. He's in the pit, and I'm
I
just
know
going,
exactly the guy you mean as well. I think
yeah,
he was at the Wormrot show we played, and I'm pretty sure he was crowd surfing when we were playing and Wormrot was playing. It's like old guy with like grey hair, like he's proper.
aye.
He's at loads of shows in Glasgow. He's I know exactly what you're talking about. It's very cool.
He
Like
is
I
a
do love.
legend, and that's who I aspire to be when I'm in
Oh,
my 60s and 70s or however old he is. That's what I aspire to be.
yeah,
You'll
yeah, yeah.
probably not see me in the you'll probably not see me in the pit because I'm a giant baby and on like even like I was walking my dogs earlier this afternoon and I tripped and like my foot went like that and it
Right.
hurts like fuck. And I'm like, well, I get I'm not going spin kicking at the Hell Ripper show next week, so
Oh God. Well, that's when we were on tour in Europe last year. I stage dived at our first show and I was seeing Extreme and broke my foot. And it took me like, I think, I never had insurance, so I never got to go to hospital. But when I got back, it took like months of recovery. And I was like, fuck, this hasn't happened before. And I was like, maybe this is age catching up when, I've got like I'm like self-employed and stuff. And I was like, maybe I've got I've got these responsibilities when I'm back home. I can't be taking all this time off work, but also just yeah, fuck it as well. I mean, so we need to have fun while we're doing it.
definitely. And people can tell when you're fully into something and having fun, whereas you're just kind of doing it to pay the bills or whatever.
Yeah.
And that's what I've seen from pretty much everybody that I've not only interviewed, but everybody that I've seen live is that in this scene, everyone's just having a fucking ball and is truly
Yeah.
in love with what they're doing. And
Hmm.
it's inspiring to see, and it's what made me start this. And I'm really glad that I did. And I'm bringing all of these, like, because bands are forming every other fucking day, it feels like, and
Hmm.
it's really cool to discover them and give them a platform. Like recorded an interview with somebody like the other day, a
Right.
industrial noise, like pretty much the complete opposite of like Endless Swarm in terms of
Right.
BPM. It's like instead of 300, they're like maybe five, but it was their first thing and it was really cool. And I'm privileged that people even care enough to be like, hey, you wanna do the thing? And I'm like, fuck yeah, I want to do the thing, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah, yeah. That's cool. It seems like there's a lot of like death metal bands coming out now in Glasgow, especially like a lot of young bands and um, because like I like death metal, but I'm not too involved in the scene as much. But it seems like every other week there's like a new bands coming out of there, so it's cool. It's good to see a lot of bands starting because it's what we need more of, especially in Edinburgh's seriously lacking. So yeah, that's I would definitely encourage many people to start bands and get to enjoy the benefits of being in a band and stuff like that. And also it means that I've got more bands to book because every time I'm bringing a band here, I'm like trying to get support bands and something like sometimes in Edinburgh it can be hard to find enough bands to get on the bill. So yeah, it's definitely cool if you're saying a lot more bands are forming and stuff like that as well. It's yeah, definitely encourage that.
Right, definitely. So the thing to leave off with this is that if you're in Edinburgh, start a fucking band. I don't care what you're doing. Like, just grab something. Grab your pots and pans in your kitchen or some shit, and then just turn that into MIDI samples and d do that, you know? I think that'd be fucking great. But I know that you're a busy guy and I'll not take up too much more of your time. I want to just say thank you again for taking the time to chat with me and talking
Yeah,
Endless
of course,
Swarm
man.
and Christ knows what else in however long we've been doing this. But thank you everyone so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. And if you did, like, comment, subscribe. If you're on the internet, then you know what all this stuff is. But lots to come from Endless Swarm in the future, and who knows? Who knows? Maybe they'll play your back garden. Maybe they'll play Antarctica. But have a lovely day, my man, and I will catch everyone in the next one. Peace. Oh wait, that's the wrong one. We'll cut this. It's fine. I nearly hit the end fucking Zoom meeting when I'm trying to stop the fucking recording because I'm good at my job. And there we go. And bye bye.